You know, back in my day, we didn't have none of this recharging battery flashery business that you find in everything from phones to toothbrushes. Why, we had to get on our hands and knees and beg our parents to spare a AA or two, and sometimes we went weeks, I tell you, before we got some spanking new batteries to pop into our gray bricks to play some more Alleyway. Ah, now those were the good old days.
Looking back on my elementary school days, I didn't spend a whole lot of time in front of the television or really playing with anything electronic. Most afternoons were spent playing outside, throwing around a frisbee, climbing trees, or playing kickball. But on rainy days, or times when I was relegated to my room, I spent a lot of those times playing with toy cars and a handful of action figures. But once I got my Game Boy at the age of 5, I would play this thing until the batteries ran down. And batteries weren't really something that my family kept a lot of on hand. We had an NES, but with only a few games and only one TV in the entire house, I often opted just to play my handheld since it didn't involve me asking my dad to stop channel surfing just so I could play a video game. I did have a Game Gear, which I foolishly disposed of when the screen became unusable before there were DIY screen mods. But this thing was a monster. It used 6 AA batteries that it would burn through in a couple of hours. It did have a color backlit screen, despite it being blurry, but that was any LCD screen back then, which is what probably sapped the most power, so I thankfully picked up an AC adapter that I used with my Game Gear instead of batteries. Thank you, Electronics Boutique employee, for recommending this, wherever you are. I also had a couple of Tiger Electronic handhelds, and these tend to get a bad rap from other YouTubers these days, but these were honestly super affordable and lasted a long time on just 2 AA's. Still, I'd consider these to be more of an electronic toy than a legitimate video game, but entertaining all the same. And that brings us to the Game Boy. It uses 4 AA batteries that lasted a fairly long time, but can also be powered through the power port, either with an official battery pack or with an AC adapter, both made by Nintendo. The battery pack was huge and not very convenient to use on the go, and I honestly never saw the AC adapter on sale. If my batteries died and I couldn't find 4 fresh AA's, I would sometimes mix old and new batteries, much to the chagrin of every battery manufacturer ever. But when the summer months rolled around, I stumbled upon an odd way to extend my Game Boy's battery life. On my summer vacations, I would spend a lot of time gaming and swimming. So once the batteries ran down, that would leave me with just one valid option to have fun. One day before I jumped into the pool, I carelessly left my precious Game Boy in the sun, screen up. After a few hours, I came back to it thinking that it was surely as dead as I had left it, but to my surprise, when I flicked the power switch on, the screen kicked back to life. The red power LED I'm pretty sure was still dark, but I still got the game to play with sound for an additional 30 minutes. Mind you, I wasn't using rechargeable batteries. I was using either Duracell or Energizer, normal AA alkaline batteries that did not have the ability to be recharged. So yeah, I was pretty shocked when it looked like my Game Boy was recharged simply from leaving it out in the sun. I tried it again the next day after depleting its power and found that it did indeed work again, but with slightly less gameplay time. Eventually, this method stopped working altogether, and I would be forced to beg my parents for some new batteries. But to a grade school kid like me who loved science, I thought I had stumbled onto some solar-powered secret that the Game Boy held. Now, if you've gotten the idea to try this out for yourself, I would encourage you not to. Here's why. The reason my Game Boy is painted this color is because it got discolored from being left out in the sun. The sun wreaks havoc on plastic, so just keep your electronics out of the sun. Another concern is these days batteries have different chemicals in them, which may not lead to a friendly reaction, let's just say. Even disposable batteries are much different than when I pulled off this little trick as a kid. I mean, I'm not saying the batteries absolutely will blow up in your face, but I wouldn't risk it. Chances are you're using a device that has a rechargeable lithium-ion battery anyway, so there's no need to bring the sun into this. But if your curiosity gets the better of you and you want to go out and get some alkaline batteries to try it out, don't use any source of heat other than sunlight. Anything hotter can damage the batteries or make them leak, and believe me when I tell you, you do not want to get battery acid on you, especially in your eyes. Now, this isn't anything that is unique to the Game Boy. The way batteries work involves chemicals mixing together which cause both an electrical charge and waste heat to be produced. So when a battery's chemical mix has been depleted, the heat from a source such as the sun can bring a slight charge back to them, the same way an actual rechargeable battery can get its full charge back. Honestly, I think I should have just taken the batteries out and left them in the sun instead of leaving the entire Game Boy in the heat, but I was a kid who honestly thought the screen was acting like a solar panel. Had I known it would discolor my Game Boy, I never would have done it. That is why my Game Boy has been painted to make it look presentable again. So yeah, that was my weird scientific discovery of the Game Boy way back when. Thankfully, the days of old are well behind us, and we can just plug our stuff in and charge it up the way it always should have been. Now that I think about it, battery technology can be a fascinating rabbit hole to tumble down, but I'm actually more curious to know what you did as a kid to improve your gaming experience. Let me know in the comments below, subscribe if you want to help us be more visible on YouTube, and I will see you all later. Next week on Level 1 Sword. Hey, thanks for watching! If you want to keep on top of the videos, definitely take a sec to subscribe. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon if you want to follow me across the internet. Level 1 Sword also has a weekly podcast, so give it a listen.